So I think we're live. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Having a fun evening already.
I know, quite excited for this one. Okay, so we are live. I think we're live in both the Facebook group, Flexible Working People Facebook group, and on LinkedIn. So it's going to take a few minutes for people to join. Someone's already joined. I'm really excited for tonight's Facebook Live. Just to say, I have very little voice, so I'm going to let Rachel do more of the talking tonight because I've been feeling poorly all week. So I'm going to let you do most of the talking, although I do talk a lot. Tonight's session is on job search strategy. We're going to talk about all things job search. And I think the reason why we've done this is because it's January. Lots of people, by the nature of it being January, pick up their job search after Christmas or have spent some time over Christmas thinking about what they want and maybe they want to change. It's always sort of there's impetus in January to start looking for a job. And I notice loads more people join the group and it gets really active. And I know from my job search how frustrating it can be, particularly if you've had a career break or you've been on maternity leave or you don't really know what you want to do. And so this is for you if you're feeling a little bit demotivated, maybe you're sending off tons of applications and not really getting anywhere, or you just don't know where to start. So I'm really thrilled to have Rachel Veal here with me tonight. I've just said hello, but this is Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Rachel is new to our group. Have you been in the group for a while?
Yeah, I've been lurking for a little while. I kind of know what goes down. Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's the first time we've done a live together. So I invited Rachel to join us because Rachel's the co-founder of Coaching Partners. And you offer career coaching and training, particularly focused on career break mums looking to return to work or career pivot or do something new. Rachel is pretty experienced, qualified coach with a background in corporate learning and career development, and also super passionate about supporting mums into high quality, flexible roles, as am I. So tonight we're going to cover lots of different aspects of job search strategy. We're going to look at why it's important for you to get focused on what you're looking for. And I think the word strategy is key to all of that. How to get some of the foundations in place and how to start thinking about selling you and marketing yourself and looking for a job. We're going to touch on the job tools you need for your job search. Going to talk a little bit about how to work with recruiters, and I'm going to share a few insights and kind of how and where to find flexible jobs. Power of your network, always need to talk about that when your job search, and how also, job search can be so demoralizing, can't it, and demotivating and tough. And so we're going to try and instill you with some power and impetus to stay motivated as you go through your job search. So we're going to kick off. We've got a few people already joined, and I'm sure lots of people will be watching on replay. If you're watching live, can you just give us a little thumbs up or a say hello? And also, we do really want questions because we're here to help you with your job search. So we can waffle on forever and a day, the two of us, about what you need to do, and I'm sure we will. But if you've got any questions and you're struggling with something in particular, then pop it in the question box or the comments box. And then if we've got time at the end, we'll go through your questions. So I've got a thumbs up. It's nice to see someone's here listening. So let's kick off, Rachel. We've called this job search strategy for a reason. Should we start, or do you just want to start by unpacking what we mean by a job search strategy as opposed to just looking for a job, and why having a strategy when you're looking for a job is so important?
You're right. This is so important, and it's all about not being a headless chicken, not losing yourself in internet land, and working out who you are, where you're going, where the best places to look are, and how you're going to carry out that search. And it's actually that makes it less demoralizing, more motivating. You can get behind a job search if you have that strategy in place. That's actually going to carry you through. The strategy brings focus, the focus brings results, the results brings motivation, and that takes you through. But we've all seen the opposite. We've all seen the opposite of this. And that is the person who hasn't job searched for a while. So they go excitedly out into internet land, and there are some new job sites. And actually, they always start with their old ones. You know, the one from 15 years ago. Everybody has their go-to old job site. But anyway, they go to their job sites, and there's new job search functionality, and it all looks a bit shiny. And so they start their search. So you're a marketing director, lots of marketing people in my network, and you start to look for flexible work as a marketing director all over the place and start your search. And that's all sort of kind of ticking along, but you don't find very much. So, well, that's why you just sort of need to put in some different search terms. So then you put marketing manager, and you're going to be searching on that. You're searching on flexible, you're searching on part-time, perhaps you're searching on term time. That is, in fact, the holy grail, but maybe you didn't know that at the time. So you search for your term time marketing manager role. There's a school in Aberystwyth, but there's going to be quite a lot of applications for that one. And you keep going, and then it becomes, well, you just broaden it, and you look at marketing administrator, and you look at marketing assistant, and you look at marketing, and then you start doing a geographic search for something flexible, part-time or term time in your area, and then a bit broader out, and it gets ridiculous. And that's when it starts to become a bit of a depressing thing. It looks as though you have all the possibilities on your plate, but after hours of searching, you can come up with very few possibilities. And the danger is that then you downgrade your career search. And that is the danger of it. Or you go into shiny things mode, and that's where you see things which are faintly possible. It could be a new training course, and I'll retrain as something or the other because it looks easy, it looks possible. Or I'll go for this job which I'm not really qualified for or experienced for, but it looks doable, it looks possible. That's the desperation mode of internet land, and it's so easy to end up in that space.
You're running around a bit like a headless chicken, starting in one place, doing a search, moving on to another, then thinking, oh, actually, I won't do this, I'll do that, seeing something shiny and getting distracted. So you're kind of all over the place. So what should we do instead?
Or the scattergun approach like that, where you're looking at lots of is tiring. It doesn't come up with much. Searching for 6 jobs is a lot harder than searching for one anyway. So what we do is start with you. Don't start with what's out there. In fact, maybe even just close your laptop, switch off your phone. That's crazy. Just put your phone to one side. But start with you. What do you want right now? Pulling out from your background, your key experiences and your key skills. If you can't go back to exactly what you were doing before kids, then how can you pivot to what you want now? When you start with you and your strengths and your experiences, that's how you start to acquire some focus. And from these exercises, you might then be prepared to go back out on the internet, to be back out in the right places, looking for some new terms for a new role. Now, it may be that actually you find that role doesn't exist, or you think potentially it doesn't exist in internet land. And then that's a different search. That would be more of a network search. But this is the way to go. You start with you focus on you get the career clarity. Difficult to say at this time of night. You get the career clarity that you need, and then you go out either into job sites or looking at a more advanced search to find and possibly even make what you need. That's it.
Okay, so we start with us, and we're saying that we look at our transferable skills, the experiences we've had, and start to think about how we might transfer those into a particular role.
Yeah, this is a pivot and a more sort of technical job search, rather than going like for like and just searching for the part-time version of what you had before. It's thinking more broadly. It's thinking about whether you can flex what you were doing before So it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. As parents, we know that's not a good thing to do, but it is thinking very strategically about what you can do, your strengths and your experiences, and then mapping that to what's out there.
So I think that's really tough to do on your own, which is why there are career coaches who can help you to do that. Which it is true, because I remember when I did that and I finished a corporate career as a senior person in marketing, and I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do next. And taking that step back to then explore and unpick what my transferable skills were and what I wanted to do, I found that really hard. So that is quite hard to do on your own. So I think people probably need a bit of help in thinking that bit through. And I think lots of people start with the brief, I just want to work flexibly, because in our world, there's very much I've done this, but actually I just want to earn some money now. I've been in a senior role, and and I might be overqualified for this, but actually I just want to work a few days a week and earn some money. And I see so many CVs from people who are maybe in the overqualified category, and I hate using that term because I think that companies should be delighted to have applications from people who have so many skills and experience to bring. But what advice do you have in terms of how you would position yourself for a job in a situation where you have got lots of experience? Maybe you are looking for something part-time and lesser, or if you are senior and you don't want to lose out on the money and all this, the experience you've got, and you want to get as good a job as you had before but work part-time. They're kind of two quite key areas of people who are in our group who struggle with job search.
Yeah, and they're quite different. So let's take the first one as the former one, where you were looking at somebody who had a more senior role, but for personal reasons or practical reasons, family reasons, they're now looking to step down a little bit, take something a little bit more junior to get the flex that they want and they need. And that's right for right now. I'm a big believer in the right for right now role. If that is right for you and that is right for your family right now, perfect. So if you want to do that, that's perfectly doable, but you have to be clear and honest with a recruiter or a potential employer that that is what you're doing. I mean, you're absolutely right, Katy, that this person could be a brilliant employee, and they could be an absolute catch to an employer because they've got all this experience and they're very keen to get back into the workplace. They'll be ultra enthusiastic and they can add so much value. However, if this person just sends out her CV as it is with no tailoring and no explanation in the covering letter about her goals, about what she's doing, the automatic reaction of the person on the receiving end is going to be a bit suspicious that that person doesn't really want that role, that they're not going to stay in the role, and that it just sort of, it's alarm bells. And it shouldn't be that. It's just that it's a confusing situation. And I know that from our discussions, you have these sorts of CVs and you look at them and you can't understand what they're doing. Or even if you have an inkling that you understand what they're doing, you haven't got the time to coach them through this or to read between the lines about what's going on. Nobody has time to read between the lines and find out through detective means your story. You have to tell them your story. No, so you do that in your covering letter. You modify your CV. If you going back to our marketing director friend, if you don't want that marketing director role, don't shout marketing director all over the place. Obviously, you're clear about the positions that you've held, but really use a CV format which pulls out your skills and experience, has a profile which talks about the direction on which you're heading and how you can support and all these great attributes that you will bring to a certain sort of role. And then in a covering letter, you can do a fairly straightforward explanation, that as a parent or as a carer, you're looking for flexibility. You can then do an impassioned speech about all the things you can bring to the role, because yes, we don't want to dwell too much on the flex side, but you have to explain. You have to explain it to a recruiter. You have to explain it to a potential employer, and then the right person will absolutely understand where you're going and what you're
all of that. So on the other side of the fence, obviously, as a recruiter, as well as in managing and running this group and wanting to help as many people as possible, it's impossible to help people who aren't clear about, what they want and what they're doing. And so when we run job ads that say, customer service or admin assistant, and you've got very senior people applying for them, and you open up their CV, and the CV has finance director or finance manager or HR, and there's no explanation, no tailored, as you say, profile, and not much in the cover letter, it just automatically goes into that doesn't really fit the criteria pile. No. Yeah. And so just by making those tweaks, and I feel it's the most important part, and we're going to talk about quality applications, because I think that a lot of people apply for a lot of things hoping that something will stick. But spending more time, and I always say this, but spending more time tailoring your application and really, spelling out and getting into the detail of kind of why you're applying for this and why you're right for it, that time spent is so much more valuable than applying for lots and lots of opportunities and hoping that someone will go, oh, I get it, that's why you want to do that. So that's really, really, really good advice. It's still hard, and I will say that even if you do have a very tailored CV and cover letter, if it doesn't say what you want it to say on the CV when you're opening it, and you've got lots of people who are applying for jobs who have been receptionists or admin assistants or whatever the job is, it is tougher. And then we're going to talk a little bit about network, because we're jumping all over the place, but I think you do all those things, and then should we talk about that now? Because I think that your network, we're jumping a bit, but people who are going to give you jobs are people who know, like, trust, or refer you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I think your networks are really important. And if you are not a square peg, square hole person, then talking to a human is going to move you forward. So working your real life networks, whether that's school mums, friends of friends, you'll know the sorts of people who have influence and who have a background which might help you. There will also be people in your network who cannot help you. That's Auntie Maud. She doesn't understand what you used to do, and she doesn't understand what you want to do now. So you can just leave her. Your mum is also, I have to say, your mum is not the best person to go to either. But there will be brilliant people within your networks, within your real life face-to-face networks, who can help you. And here we go back to focus, because if you're standing at the school gate and you're actually having a real conversation that's not about your child, I know it doesn't happen very often, but it can do, particularly as your kids get older, and somebody says to you, oh, right, so you're looking for work, so what do you want to do? If you come back with, I don't know, something part-time or term time, nobody can help you. Nobody can do anything with that. And it's the same within your friend networks and your school mum networks as with the professional networks. The professional can't help you with that, and your friend and acquaintance network cannot help you with that. However, once you get clear, or even clearer, on what you want to do, or even give somebody an elevator pitch which includes what you used to do, so they have an idea, because most of them don't know, then they can understand and they can say, yes, I can help you. Yes, I can talk to somebody. Yes, I know somebody in that area. So that works with a friend network, and that works with a professional network too. Once you get just a little bit specific, or even sharing your key strengths and from your background before kids, then people can start to help you, and people like to help you. Friend networks really do like to help you, and professionals want to help you too. But as Katy said, they don't have the time to delve. They don't have the time to do the detective work. They don't have time to do the coaching bit. So being as helpful as possible, being as focused as possible, being able to articulate your key strengths, your key experience, however much in the past it might seem now, it doesn't matter. Most of your experience and stuff doesn't date. It's all still valid and all part of who you are.
Yeah, and I think there is a confidence thing, isn't there? I mean, I remember myself, and I mean, even now, I think there's an element of just, are we good enough? Are we going to get the job? Etc. But, that can hold you back. So it's about digging a bit deeper and saying, actually, this is what I did, and I did it well. And just reminding yourself of kind of who you are, particularly if you're coming back from a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the getting clear exercises is good for that purpose. It's really good to sit down and think about your strengths. If you reconnect with an ancient CV, we've all got on a third laptop twice removed. We've all got an ancient CV, and you probably brought it forward on a memory stick, or it's been pulled forward somehow. And when you look at it, you might wonder who that person is. It's also a bit like, if you studied, you went to college or university, and you kept some of the papers from that time, and you read something and think, I have no recollection of writing that. That actually sounds quite good. That person sounds vaguely intelligent. It's the same with your CV, reconnecting with that person and reminding yourself. And if you can't do that, get somebody else to help you in that exercise, because it's a really good confidence boost. It is proof that you are good at stuff.
Yeah.
Proof, whether it's from stuff that you have or whether it's social proof by other people, really has a lot of impact.
So we've covered a lot, and I don't mind the fact we're jumping around, because actually it's useful. But on the whole CV thing, I remember, and I see CVs every day, and I see good CVs, okay CVs, and horrific CVs. So I really do. And I think that, you're right. You kind of pull a CV out the archive, dust it off, and you add on the next job. And the CV just gets longer and longer and longer. And you kind of can't even remember what you did previously. You just keep bolting on the next job. And I mean, is that the way forward? Because I think you should sort of throw it all back up again, and not throw it all back up again. That doesn't sound great, but rather than just keep bolting on your next job, is just really take a step back and think, who am I now? How is this CV going to present who I am now and what I want to do, rather than using an old document that doesn't really help you in what you're trying to achieve.
Use it for the nuts and bolts and use it for the dates, but then you've got to start. CVs have changed, you know this, and the profile and a skills section, give it so much more direction than the old kind of death by bullet points thing that you might have chucked out at some point. You can do a lot more with it. You can tailor it. You can really structure the direction and make it much more personal. But I think, it's a start from scratch, depending on what you want. If you are somebody who is looking for a slightly more junior, flexible role, or if you are in that other category that I mentioned before, you're senior, and you want to keep the seniority, but you want the part-time from that, whichever way you're going, you need to restructure your CV. So it's using the other one as a baseline, but not keeping bolting stuff on. You also have to be brutal with your editing at times, otherwise it will get too long. And as you get older, and you have to red pen stuff that's no longer relevant. I mean, there's some basics that people have hanging around. GCSEs have no relevance to a mature woman, and bizarre things that stick around on your CV from ages and ages ago that you were proud of once, and sometimes it's letting go of the past.
Yeah. It's also about not what you've done, but what you've achieved. And there's a huge difference there in bullets saying, I was responsible for A, B, C, D, E, F, rather than actually, these are the things that, I achieved, and these are the things I delivered. And, it might be that time's passed and you can't remember exactly kind of that you increased sales by X%, but you definitely know that you had impact on revenue, and you can talk about the impacts that you had, and kind of sell what value from that you can bring to your future employer, as opposed to just, I answered the phones, you know, I ran a team. Like what are the things? What are the things that you're actually going to bring to this, you know, from your experiences? And I think a lot of CVs don't focus on that. And I know that, you know, we CVs are it's a skill. Writing a CV is a skill. And we do have a free template. If you go to the Flexible Working People website, there is a template that you can follow with kind of skills, achievements, and it sections it out. We also have a CV service. We have professional CV writers who can write your CV. Lots of people don't want to spend money on having CV written for them. And I get that. If you're looking for a job, I totally get that. But it's like coaches, CV writers, there are professionals who can help you along the way. And sometimes it is worth a small investment in yourself to end up where you need to get to. And I think often people don't feel comfortable in making investments in things in themselves when they're looking for a job or looking, you know, it's tough because you feel like, you know, you're worrying about getting a job and where the salary is going to come from. But I would say that, and I don't know what your take on this, but if you're looking to change roles or whatever, or pivot, then think about upskilling and think about what training, you know, could help you. Or if you want to get a great CV and land a great job, then maybe do invest. Like there are times when investing is a good thing in your kind of future self.
Yeah, and I think you decide which way to jump, don't you? Some people are naturally very good at writing and organising, and they could pull the CV stuff together with, as you say, the templates that people like you provide, and working through exercises, perhaps the achievements one. And as we talked about, is really tough. And I think particularly for women as well, we're not terribly good at selling ourselves to start with. Yeah. Exercises around there that you can do, the storytelling that you can do to help pull out some of those achievements, really important. And some people will have strengths in that area. It's where you need deciding what you're good at and what you can take forward by yourself, and where you need a little bit of support.
Yeah.
Whatever moves you forward faster. That's the
And I think the most important thing I'm taking out of this is just getting as clear as you can on what it is that you want before you start searching, and being really clear about what value you're going to bring. So that's kind of the achievements piece. So rather than go, because I think everyone starts by just going, oh, I'm just going to go online, I'm going to go to, you know, I'm going to do a search on Google and I'm going to get lost in the internet, and then I'm going to feel really ill when I realize that there aren't any jobs and I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. It's that whole panic. And then it's that step back, and then it's the strategy piece, which is, as we've talked about, which is getting clearer on what it is that you want and how you're going to achieve that. And earlier you were talking about people who just say, oh, I just want to work part-time, or I want to work flexibly. They're the hardest people to help. And honestly, I know I speak to people every day. Oh, can you speak to my friend? Or can you speak to this one? Or can we have a chat? And anyone who leads with, can you help me? I just want a part-time role, you know, around school hours, and I don't really care what it is. I just need to earn a bit of money. They're the hardest people to help, as much as I want to. It's like, that's what everybody wants. Yes. And so being a bit clearer on, actually tell me about who you are and what you've done and what skills you have. And when I get calls and people say, I'm really strong on business development, I love sales, or I've been running events for years, or, you know, that's what I did, then I start thinking, oh, actually, that's interesting, because, and so one of the questions is, how do you work? One of the questions I wanted to ask you, but then you were like, well, you probably know better, was about how do you work with recruiters? I don't really like to call myself a recruiter, but I suppose I do sit in two camps here. But it's just about, as you say, being clear with your recruiter on what you want, and not being sort of generically vague. It's much easier to help somebody who knows what they want than someone who doesn't know what they want. And also the don't lead with flex thing is such an important message. Like, in any job interview, in any conversation, don't lead with flex. But then that leads me on to the question, which is, where do you find a flexible role? And there are so many more places now, aren't there, to find flex, not just flexible working people. What did you say earlier? There are other alternatives. What's that?
It's a good place to start, though, isn't it? Yeah, there are flexible job sites which you can start with. There are Facebook groups. there's so much going on. LinkedIn is more flex based than it used to be, and by starting with flexible sites and starting with flexible recruiters, you're joining your tribe and you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. And that's why you start there first. By all means, later on, broaden out your search, and you could go to some more generic job sites, which do have some sort of flex filters as well. And you could look at some more generic recruiters as well. But starting with those flex places is really important. Otherwise, you waste so much time. You want to be with your tribe. You want to be with people who get you, people who understand. So you start there, and then you broaden out later.
Exactly. And finding advocates in your network who are going to support you and help maybe introduce you and so on is so important.
Networking is a very broad change, and although for some people it sounds very panic inducing, it doesn't have to be. It just means using making use of people that you know who might like to help you, and also reaching out and broadening your network and finding some new people. And as we said before, people generally do like to help. If you're not sort of in direct competition for a role with them, people do like to help. They do like to be assistants. And so you can ask for small things. You can ask for introductions. You can just ask for chats with people. And I find that's a really enlightening one for job searchers, just to have a chat with people who might have a network that could be useful to you, might have information that could be useful to you, or even to talk about an industry that they're working in, or a role that they're working in. Reaching out and having these chats with people, that's a very powerful facet of networking. And I think LinkedIn facilitates that really, really easily.
Yeah, as does our Facebook group. And I think that lots of people, and you should use the Facebook group to come in and say, this is my experience and this is what I'm looking for. And I've seen it with my own eyes, that people who are specific about what they want and don't just say, I'm just looking for an evening job where I can earn extra money. And then lots of people who have MLM, can't say that, opportunities, jump on and go, we'll become a travel agent, or talk to me about this, talk to me about that. But like real jobs, if you're looking for real, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but real paid jobs.
Say it.
Well, then come into the group and put it out there, because I've seen magic happen when people do that. So go into the group and say, this is my experience, this is what I'm looking for. But just when you post, be clear. Tell people what your experience is in, because there's so many hiring managers in that community, thousands, who have quite happily jump all over you because they're looking to fill their jobs and don't want to pay recruiters to do it. So not fill up your boots, like go in and post and tell people who you are and shout about yourself, because so many times that's happened and people have said, oh, I know this, or they'll refer you, or they're hiring. And it's like, don't sit back on your own in this lonely job search, because there's so many people, as you said, people do want to help and people do want to fill their jobs, and it's tough. So put yourself out there.
Yeah. It's important to be difficult, but you can do that in a really gentle way. So, if you're a little bit introverted, then doing that within a safe space like your Facebook group, doing that on LinkedIn, it's not so tough. And I think most people will find that the help they will get will be invaluable. You might not directly get a job, but your networks will be larger and you'll have some good contacts, and you'll actually feel pretty good from doing the visibility thing, because you'll see that.
So just on LinkedIn, we haven't talked about it and we are a few minutes over time, but I think it's important just to touch on LinkedIn, because it's such a critical part of a job search. It can help you so much, but people are slightly terrified of it. I mean, it's easy for people. It looks easy for people who are quite comfortable with going on and talking on LinkedIn. But it's actually not. It's actually quite a terrifying space, even like for me, and I'm completely on it. And I think, oh, if I post, people are going to think, what are you posting? So how should people behave on LinkedIn if they're looking for a job?
I think it's starting slowly so that you feel okay. So that it's starting slowly, sorting out your profile so that if anybody did look at it, then it'll be up to date and, not sort of 5-10 years out of date. That and then starting to broaden your network, doing some searching, reaching out to people, and you can make little steps, and that's not too scary. And from those little steps, when you see that that's okay, then you could start reaching out, contacting people. There are also groups that you could join on LinkedIn. They don't have the same community focus as Facebook.
No, they're not as good as Facebook.
Much stronger. But again, it's little steps, and it's about network building. I see lots of people who have been off LinkedIn for a bit and or dormant, and they are afraid of getting started, being seen. But it's from being seen, well, that's where the magic happens. That's where you can make a difference. So slowly,
but get in there, because it's the first place that recruiters and hiring managers will go when they get an application. I go straight over to LinkedIn and have a look to see, does it look like the CV? What, usually there's a picture. Always have a picture. Do not have a blank. If you want to have open to work in a little green banner, that also helps people to identify when they're doing searches. But get your profile up to date so that when you do apply for jobs, it's not like this empty cave when you go in and you're like, there's literally one line and it gives you nothing, because it just doesn't help. Whereas it really helps if you've got that populated with stuff and connecting as well.
Does it? I mean, because I think perfection stops people from.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be there. Just update it.
Okay, and up to date.
And connect with a few people who you used to work with, or connect with a few people who you know, through your own network, who are on LinkedIn. Start slowly building. You don't have to go out saying, hey, everyone, I'm looking for a job. Although, actually, if you did and you were brave enough to do it, you'd find that actually lots of people would want to help you. Yeah. I think we have to remember that people do want to help, and magic happens when you put yourself out there.
I think it's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't had any questions come in, just a few thumbs up. And we're a little bit over time now. I would say that if you've listened, I hope that you've got some value out of this. Obviously, it's really hard to cover absolutely everything in 35 minutes. Rachel's in the group, and feel free to drop any comments on the thread underneath this live. Alex Knott says, thanks very much, lots of brilliant advice. I'm off to work on my elevator pitch. So drop any comments and we can come in and answer. What would your parting thought be? I love this question when I put people on the spot, but what would your parting advice be for anyone who's struggling in their job search right now?
It will all be okay. But just remember, focus on you. It all starts with you and the clarity. Focus on flex, and then focus on making a plan. But focus. Okay.
And before we finish, Rachel has invited me to join an event that she's running in end of January. Do you just want to give a bit of a what it is and why people should join? Because there's going to be lots more helpful advice there for people.
Yeah, just briefly, very exciting this month, starting next week on the 22nd. This is a virtual interview series for career break mums. It's called Return to Flexible Work. And I have invited over 20 speakers from the world of careers, recruitment, plus the practical side of childcare, and the important bit of well-being and confidence and all the rest of it. It's all the speakers who can support you in your first steps to returning to good quality, flexible, professional work. The interview series will be running over a couple of weeks, and there'll be 2 or 3 talks going out every day. So please do join us. If you need a little bit of a kick up the what's it to get started, this could be your motivation and your inspiration to move forward. And the lovely Katy is there.
I'm one of the speakers, but there's 20 speakers, people just like me, who do what I do in all different spaces. So whether it's recruitment, jobs boards, they're all about flexible working. So I would say it's a great event to join. And I think you can dip in and dip out of content?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put a link to that in the thread as well. And we'll also, Rachel's going to come in promote that separately so everyone can find that, and we'll pin that so that you know where to sign up and register. And we've been running that in the newsletter for the last couple of weeks, so we'll make sure that we signpost. All right, well, look, Rachel, thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed that. I think getting some feedback over here, I think, you know, lots of people saying I'm one of those vague looking for part-time work people. I need to do some soul searching. That's the hardest part. Just what I needed to hear to get me going. It is hard. There's no silver bullet, but just, you know, follow the advice and focus. I think that's the key word, isn't it? Focus.
Really, yeah, it really is.
And even though it feels really hard at the beginning, you will get there. You will.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next week. We've got 2 Facebook Lives. Can't remember what they are. That's really helpful, isn't it? One is on the end of remote working with Belinda Lester from Lion's Head Law. And the other one, I think, is with Sarah Archer, who's our amazing career coach, who's going to be talking about imposter syndrome. So join us next week for more exciting shenanigans. All right. Bye, Rachel.
Good night.
Good night. Take care.